This is pretty.
It's 7 p.m. Dee, are we live streaming yet? We are, okay. I'm not sure if we should wait to see if there's other board members joining us. Who is the phone on the bottom, Dee Dee?
That's Megan's.
Megan.
That's
Megan.
Megan? Oh, okay.
Yes, Megan's.
Summers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 members, so that is a quorum. Did you hear from the other board members if they were going to attend? Okay. This is the annual November meeting, and this is the only time of the year that I get to open the meeting and mention that this is the annual election of public of our officers, and nominations for the board chair are now open, and I wanted to know if there were any nominations for board chair.
Yes, I nominate Kate Beauparlant for board chair.
I second that.
Are there some other nominations for a board chair? Okay, based on the procedures that we've followed in the past, we did use a paper ballot, but with the online meeting, we will have a show of hands. And please note that even though there's some guidelines for using a paper ballot in the time of COVID, we'll have a show of hands. But one of the requirements is the meeting must show who voted for or abstained or was against the nomination. So eventually it lists who voted for who. So I'm going to ask for a show of hands. All those in favor of Kate being the board chair. And Dee Dee, for the record, I have Kathy, I have Kate, I have Valerie, and I have Erica. So those are the 4 votes in favor. And Megan, I'm not sure how you would like to vote.
Megan Summers. Like you
Megan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, that's fine. I'm in favor.
Okay, so that's all in favor. So congratulations, Kate. You're now board chair, and that ends my official duties as superintendent for the election process. We'll now go through the vice chair and the secretary.
Are we taking, I'd like to nominate Megan for vice chair.
I second that.
Oh, she thirds that. Raise your hand.
Oh,
Are we all in favor?
Yes, it looks like it. Yep.
It's all for you again. Not proceeding something, I don't care.
Kate, we can't hear, I can't hear you.
unmute. There we go. Sorry.
Okay, yes.
So there are no other nominations. So the board votes Megan Wicks as our vice chairperson. Congratulations.
Can we do actual motions for both?
Oh, that's right,
Yeah,
yes.
they have to be actual motions to
So,
accept.
we should go back and the board chair, and that was Erica who made the motion, and I believe Kathy raised her hand after that, and that was all in favor. And
you
then for the
flip-flop
vice,
it for Megan. Then you flip-flop it for Megan.
Right.
yes, and then for Megan, it was Kathy who made the motion, and Erica did the
Yes.
second, okay?
Those are the nominations, but yeah, okay.
Yes, so we'll move to
motion.
nominate.
I second it, yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, and then the next one is the,
got it.
yep, okay, the next one is the secretary, Kate.
Okay, nominations in order for the office of the Board of Education secretary.
I'll nominate Kathy Grant if she would like to do it.
Thank you. I'm good doing it.
A second.
You're good at it.
I do all the bills and stuff.
All in favor of the nomination for Kathy Grant as secretary?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed?
I think I'm part of Board of Ed meeting now.
There's no.
Motion carries.
And then for a comment, I believe that might be Kathy's 10th time serving as the secretary. So we thank you for your service with that.
Yes, thank you for your service,
Thank
Kathy.
you.
Well, excellent. So does that end the official nomination process?
So
Yes, it
basically
does.
you all want, I know you guys who nominated who, but as far as the actual motions, you want the same people? Is that how you want it to be in the minute?
If it's an agreement, yes. I think that was what Megan and,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Megan and I did the motions for Kathy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great. At this point, do we call the regular meeting to order?
Yes.
7:06? Awesome. So do we need to do a roll call at this point?
If you'd like me to. I see Kate.
Yeah, I guess we should, just because there are a few members not present
Yeah,
this time.
Kate is here and Megan Wick, Kathy Grant, Erica, and Valerie. And absent is Chris Wilson and Scott Paul. Okay.
Okay, thank you for that. We can all rise for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Kathy,
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Okay.
of the
The
United
United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
One
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay,
we wrote short right there.
so I don't believe there were any citizens' comments submitted before the meeting at this point.
No.
And no guests, correct?
Right.
All right.
Good.
So we'll move on to the consent agenda as part of our packet that was sent out. If all board members have had time to review that, is there anything that anyone would like to take out to review?
No.
Okay. All right, so we'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion.
Well, a second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we'll move into administrative report, starting with the principal report. Hi, Amy.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm on there twice. I'm gonna actually disconnect this now. Done. My internet was going in and out, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose it when it was my turn to talk. So, hi, everyone. I included in my principal's report a few additional items just to go over for COVID and a couple of things that happened, and then I'm just going to talk about a few things that have happened this week. We, as you know, as of October 13th, opened 5 days a week. It's been going great. So it's actually been a month since we moved to that model. And I know in the beginning we were hesitant and we didn't know what it was going to look like, but it's been going extremely well. And I'm so excited and happy for our kids and our staff and our families to be able to have 5 days a week. With saying that, we've actually been in school 50 days. So today was the 50th day. So if you had a first grader, you know that we were celebrating the 50th day of school today in their classrooms. So it was an exciting day for them and for everyone else to be reminded that we, have been back and together for that many days. We have continued all of our mitigating measures that we're using inside of our classrooms. Hallways, distancing, and we do practice, continuously. I mentioned it at the last board meeting that we were going to continue again. Now that we were open 5 days, all of those mask wearing, watching our distance, and washing our hands, and we go through those, frequently. We've opened up some more sinks in our science lab that we're not utilizing right now. And I didn't realize my video was off. And so we've opened those up so we can get a few more kids in there to wash their hands during the lunch and recess transition. So that's really open for our 5th and 6th grade classes, mainly our 6th grade classes. We are continuously, working on providing information on our website and our Facebook page. And those are updated by myself and Rachel Ricard. So in the midst of our days, we really try. Some weeks you'll see there's a lot on Facebook because I just happen to have a lot of things to put out there, but we really try to put, information out in that way. And there'll be another weekly memo that goes out tomorrow. And tomorrow's memo will focus on the need to look forward to the upcoming break that we'll be having and reminding families about the travel advisories and what we need to do in order to maintain us and keep us in school, what, we will ask of our families and staff to just be cognizant of who they're gathering with or where they're going and let us know so we can guide them in the right direction of if they need to quarantine, if they need to be tested, etc. We, this past month, they've extended free meals until June 2021. So that was approved for us. So all students, no matter of income or eligibility, can get free and reduced, free meals for breakfast and lunch. We do have a breakfast program, and that is something that we are working on promoting. One of the things that we've recently talked about is that breakfast for us is late. I'm sure like your kids, my kids wake up very early and they're eating breakfast at 7 a.m. So to come in and have breakfast at 8:45 is a little bit late. So we're just trying other avenues in order to promote our breakfast program. They are free meals. And so we're thinking of just different ways that we can get students to have those meals and continue them on. We recently received bell covers and mouth guards for our band to begin in person. So with moving 5 days a week, it was important for us to continue with our band program and our band director, Amanda Gould, providing instrument lessons for students in school. So we've tweaked it, and luckily on many days it's been nice outside, and they actually play outside my window. So 2 days a week I hear this wonderful playing outside my window, and NFA made us bell covers and adjustable mouth covers, and Amanda has done a great job at making sure that the kids are distanced and they are playing together, but they are playing individually their own pieces, and she's working and assisting them. And when we can't go outside, the way our band lessons fall, we've coordinated with our open gym time. So they then go into the gym with only their homeroom class. So when they're outside, they're able to be distanced enough with, their grade levels, but then when they are in their homeroom class, for when they're inside. So that's just something that, we work as a school to tweak and make sure that we're following the right guidance for that. We did have Spirit Week, the week of the 22nd. So that was a lot of fun. Usually for Spirit Week, there's lots of pictures and lots of different things in groups and mixing and, being part and together. So at the end of Spirit Week, what we did was, or what I did with our school, is we held an online bingo. So we played bingo. So we played bingo with middle school. We played bingo with our kind of intermediate school, and then our lower school all together. They were able to see each other on Zoom, the other classrooms. So when we had them up on Google, they were able to see their friends from the other classrooms and what those classrooms look like. So it was a cute experience. They do want to play again. So I told them that sometime in November, probably the week of Thanksgiving, we'll do it again and be able to play again. They got prizes from our school store if they were a winner. So they were excited about that. It's just those things that change up the pace of the day. Some days, the days can be long. So just changing up the pace of the day, and it really worked out well for us. Some of the other things that happened this week, we had Picture Day on the 10th. That turned out awesome. We, unfortunately, our usual photographer is not taking photos this fall. So we were kind of stuck on, do we wait or do we find somebody else? So we did contact a couple other schools who recommended Donner Photography for us. They did a great job. All of their COVID protocols, I was in there watching, and making sure that things are flowing smoothly. We did have remote students come and access our pictures, and those were in the afternoons, and they entered through our side entrance of our gym. So for them, they came in that way, and we had them set up and be able to access pictures for themselves. One of the things that we have talked about was there was no class or composite photo, and in reaching out to this photography company, they were not doing that or putting those together right now. But my hope is that in the spring, if our typical company comes back to do graduation photos, I'm hoping that they would be able to come back even earlier in the spring and do class photos together. And that's one of those significant events for kids to have is their class photo, and then parents could purchase that separately. So we'll see as time goes on if we're able to do that. The PTO held a meeting on October 27th. It went great on Google Meet. We had a lot of good discussion about where we left off. We were kind of just cut off in February, and like we had all these things planned and where maybe we can go. We did discuss, continuing virtual meetings. It was, easy for a lot of people to be able to attend that maybe can't always make it in person, etc. We ran our Scholastic Book Fair. A lot of people had gotten books from that. They're also doing their Butter Braid fundraiser currently, and those will be due in mid-December. So that's another big seller for the PTO. We are hoping to do a little penguin shop again, and we feel that we can do that safely, classroom by classroom, and let kids be able to look and select all those fun little items that get stuck on your shelf after a while. But kids like to purchase for their family members, and it's fun for them. So we're hoping that we can, Mrs. Davis and I, trying to figure out what's that going to look like, and how can we make it safe without everybody touching it, et cetera. So those are just a few of the things that have come up. As far as COVID, right now we are seeing, as an update from our committee, we are seeing an increase in our level. So right now, I believe Voluntown is in the orange range. For us in school, we are constantly and consistently working with the Department of Health if needed to be for contact tracing, or sometimes they ask us as a precautionary measure. We've reached out to this family and asked them to go get tested or quarantine because they may have been in contact with someone. So there are different things that happen throughout the weeks and the days. We've been fortunate right now that we've had no positive cases since our last 2 positive cases. And that being said, cold and flu season is here, and kids are going to get sick, and it's just hard to distinguish what is actually sick and what is actually the spread of COVID. So those are the things we're working on. One of the measures that the reopening committee has taken at this point in time is we are now having students, when they go out to physically and actively play for recess, we are having them wear their masks. It's at this point in time, because we're teetering between orange and red and the community spread around us, we feel that's important for right now that they wear those masks. When kids play, as you know, they are social creatures, and it's extremely hard when you're playing to ensure that they are separate. And for us, it's about their safety and knowing that they're safe when they're with us. So doing that measure for now and having them wear them. When they're outside, if they're separated from others, they can take their mask off. They have mask breaks regularly. But we felt as a committee that it was important to start that for this time being. And so I did have a few students ask me why, and I explained to them that, the protection, we can protect ourselves by wearing masks at this time. And hopefully, in a few weeks or a month or so, we can revisit it. And we were really lucky this fall, but now we're coming into time when our community spread is a little bit more. And we want to keep kids in school, and we want to keep them in school 5 days a week. And we really don't want to go back to hybrid, and I really don't want to close. So whatever measures we can take, I'm willing to take. And I'm sure that, for some kids, it's interesting because there are some kids who prefer to wear their mask outside, and that could have already been a family preference that was talked about with them, and being able to play and be together is important. And so is, making sure that we're protected. tomorrow's parent-teacher conference. So anybody listening, if you haven't had a conference scheduled, make sure you reach out to your teachers. I encourage any middle school parent, if you have questions about grades, especially if it's related to specials, because you don't always see those teachers, please make sure that you've reached out and that you request a conference. They are available also, you know, throughout the day tomorrow from 11 to 6. So that is just something else that I wanted to remind families about, that no school tomorrow, 11 to 6 is conferences. Anybody have any questions?
Hi, I have two actually. Please forgive me if you cover this. I arrived late. Distance learners, have they increased, decreased, or remained about the same as the numbers fluctuated? And the second question is the evacuation and all the safety drills. How are those progressing along in the age of COVID?
So we actually, the governor, and the only reason why I know that it's addendum 8 is because I just read it the other day. I wouldn't normally know that off the top of my head. We had, so in the beginning, we were very nervous about what are we supposed to do? And my stance was always, well, we need to get out of a building. Like if there's a fire, we need to get out, barring COVID, like it doesn't matter. We're going to get out. So we have talked about with our kids, you know, what they're doing and what they're doing during those drills. We actually recently just had a fire drill. And so the guidance is basically that you to evacuate just like you normally would. Kids would have their masks on anyways. Once you get outside, you would ensure that you were socially distant from your other counterparts and making sure that you were lining up correctly. Same thing for an evacuation, I would assume, is that we would just evacuate. Kids would be masked already because we're inside. And then once they get outside, we would evacuate down to the church. So that'll be interesting if we're going to actually practice that this spring. So that's something we missed from last spring. So to practice this spring, we'll have to see where we're at. I mean, it's possible we might practice that, but we would, you know, definitely do the same procedure for a fire drill, and that was encouraged in this addendum. Same thing for any other crisis type of drill. We are required to do one a month, or, well, they say it's basically one a month, so that's how you kind of gear it in your mind. You remember to do it each time. So we'll continue on and make sure that we get enough in by the end of the school year. And so as far as distance learning goes, so after our first set of couple of cases, and then there was a lot of talk about community spread, and Norwich began to close, and different things. We did have maybe one or two families decide to go remote for a little bit longer term. So I've encouraged people that if you are, you know, there's different levels of going distance learning. There's a commitment if you're committed till the end of the year because you know that's what you want. That's one level. If it's a commitment for 4 to 6 weeks, that's a little bit different. We kind of make sure that they're still connected somewhat to their classroom. Could just be for personal preference. If it's just for 1 or 2 days, they're really just getting support from their classroom teacher, because there's no consistency if you're just doing it for a day here or a day here because for whatever reason. What we see happening now is that some of our remote kids are actually coming back in. So because of the great success we've had, we're seeing them come back in, but it's actually just equalizing. So the amount of kids that went in is offset by the amount of kids that are coming out. So we're actually really just about the same, but there has been a little bit of a swing both ways.
How's your remote learning model going? So I know you had to finagle a lot of things and move and shift people around.
Yeah.
How is the new process working out?
It's good. You know, I mean, I guess in hindsight, you always say to yourself, like, everything takes time, because right away, like as educators, you want it to be perfect. You want it to roll out. You want to make sure you're doing everything correctly. And it's just like being in school for the first 6 weeks. You're trying to get to know and learn those people. So we have managed and adjusted, and we've worked. Our families have been fantastic. Any schedule change because of in-person that we've had to do with remote, they're so receptive and thankful that we, you know, are offering what we're offering to families. So it's really worked out well. And, you know, we're all sharing the piece of the puzzle here. And so as I've explained before, we know that there are some subject areas that really have to be taught by that person. You know, I'm not teaching math, and there's probably good reason for it. So for, you know, our 5th through 8th grade, it's better for them to be taught by someone who's familiar with that subject, especially in mathematics. And then we have our ELA portion, and then we have our K through 2 and our pre-K. So it's been working out. We've been, you know, we supply materials. We have parent pickups. Parents are great about coming in, picking up books or handouts or copies, because we all know, especially with little kids, being on the computer all the time is not always conducive to and same for big kids too, you know. And if you're a parent, sometimes you just want paper and you just want to be able to work on that. So we, you know, consistently have pickups when we need to get those things to them. I'm hopeful that as time goes on, a few more may want to come back, because we have a lot more to offer in person than we do remotely. But for right now, we're kind of status quo with our remote and with, you know, the help and the services that we're providing.
Thank you, Amy. That was a great overview. I know it's been just a up and down crazy wheel, like hamster wheel of how you're going to deal with day-to-day operations. So again, thank you very much for all you and the support team have been doing, you know, to keep things open and running smoothly.
I will say, what I do want to say, Kate, is on that note, is that I do want to recognize our new nurse, Linda Hansen. She comes with us with many, many years of school nurse experience, and she really has stepped into the role of becoming, you know, our COVID person. She handles any of our potential cases, any of our sicknesses. If you've had a child go home sick, she, you know, we have our form that we send home, because so it's clear to parents, like, this is what needs to happen, so we can, you know, continue to be in person. And Linda Hansen really has, you know, done such a great job just being thrown into, like, okay, welcome to, you know, being back to being a school nurse, and now there's COVID. So that's really, you know, she really has done a wonderful job. So it's great to have her with us.
I'm just relieved to know that we have, you know, that's just a touchy change of role, especially during the coronavirus. It's got to be relieving for you guys to have a great new asset to the team.
Yeah, I'm so glad we were able to get a nurse. This is like amazing.
I know. I will tell you, I mean, and some of you know, when we interviewed for our previous nurse, you know, you don't always get so many people. We were lucky then, and, you know, we've been really lucky now that Linda has come our way. So it's been, you know, a great transition to have her.
Great news, great news. Okay, well, any other questions for Amy before we move on to Director of Special Services?
I just have one question about if we happen to have to move to distance learning, are we sure that all kids have access to internet, to computers, to be able to be in that model? Has that already been facilitated so that we know that everyone is kind of on that level playing field and able to obtain the same services?
Yeah, so it's great in Connecticut because they, you know, as slow as they were in getting us devices, we did obtain hotspots. So we put in requests for hotspots for anybody that we knew or that reached out that was having connectivity issues. So that was the first thing that we had taken care of. And being so small, sometimes we don't always get that help and support from the state. So we were fortunate to get 10 hotspots. We have given some out to families that maybe need them, or maybe that have chosen remote learning, but have multiple kids who are remote because they have kids in high school and they have kids at home, and it's really draining on their internet access. We actually recently received one of our final Chromebook disbursements between the state and what we had ordered. They've taken so long to come in, but we are now down. I just got an email that we're down to kindergarten now for one-to-one devices. So we are all the way down and through. Now, can they operate them? I'm not quite sure, but that's going to be a learning process. You know, so everyone below third grade, so K1, 2, have their own Chromebooks now at school. And so if we were to close, those are available for them to take home. So the tricky part is, well, if I got a call tonight and 10 people were infected, well, what are we going to do about tomorrow? Because the kids don't have their Chromebook. So we would probably have to do some sort of pickup for those who needed it. And there are some families who don't need it and they wouldn't need to come. So we do have that measure. I'm happy that we're able to disperse all the way down, because there's nothing worse than sharing a computer with somebody and having to work that out and who's going to use it, who's got to, got to be on video, et cetera. So I'm happy that we're finally down. And so our K1, 2, they're going to start working and learning the mouse pad and being able to get on to the Chromebook and do we're so iPad driven in that age, because it's touch screen. It's so easy. But they should be pretty savvy, hopefully by the end of the year, moving on.
I feel like my 5-year-old can probably Chromebook circles around me to be complete.
I know. I know. Sometimes we don't give them enough credit. I think everybody. Yeah. But I mean, for us at 50 days, it was like exciting. I was just crossing my fingers because we got the thing home about celebrating the 50th day of school, and it's kind of like you just cross your fingers you're going to make it. So I can't imagine you guys probably all feel like you've done 3 school years at this point. That's why my hair is not cut. This is why I would, I agree. I think 50 days was great to be able to say that we made it 50. As we've said before, we are small. We, everyone, I can't say one negative thing about coming back together. We all want the same thing. We all want our kids to be in school. So us being able to take the measures we can to get them there, especially without a lot of red tape, I think that's huge. And that's what a lot of other districts face. So I'm excited that we've been in 50. And I hope that, after Thanksgiving that we can still continue to maintain and be in. And that's one of the things that, we have talked about, and I'm not sure, when Adam is going to discuss that, but there has been a lot of discussion about after Thanksgiving and up until Christmas. So hopefully, we can make it another 20 days or 30 days together.
Yeah, I appreciate I've seen you've been kind of putting all travel stuff in there. Do you plan, I know I've primarily seen it on the emails. Do you plan on, with the holidays coming, maybe doing a little more like individual flyers to be sent home with the kids and things like that?
Yeah, and we actually, and what's interesting is that I never know who reads my emails, so I'm glad to hear that somebody reads my emails. But what we had recently just gotten some guidance also. So with it ever changing, I think within the next week, we might see some more and then be able to actually send that home in paper, because you're going to check your child's folder. You're going to see that. I think it's just being aware that the state has required us to just know gathering and traveling especially is what's going to be the downfall for schools and having to have them closed. So I would agree, Megan. Yes, I think it definitely needs to go out on paper and be consistent in our message that, we want to be open. So we will take the strides that we need to hopefully continue to be open.
Yeah, and definitely you guys pointing out the molecular versus that instant read is huge. I feel like that's the biggest confusion. So thank you very much for pointing that out when you're referencing that. I think that's really important.
I think so too. And I think that I don't think many people realize that. I think they think the quicker the test, the easier or the better, but it's doing that other test that's the one that will really let us know. And we know that there are false positives and we know that there's false negatives, but when you do that other test, that's the one that's going to give you the most accurate result. And then we can act. It's unfortunate that it takes so long, because I'd love to act just quickly and be able to say, okay, this group, this cohort, here's what we're doing. But waiting on that is such the downfall of it.
Just to that point too, I know during our reopen committee meeting, and just as recent as this week, the and this goes to Adam's, probably what he's going to speak to about the COVID-19 update. It's very interesting. There's new advancements about state mandated testing sites that require a 2-day turnaround. So this is good news in the best way possible for these PCR tests. You can go ahead and go to this site, know where it is, that you're going to get it back in at least 48 hours versus 5 days. So that's a little bit of good news. I mean, I know it's not like nurses giving the tests and getting in, something specific that day or in a day, but hopefully there's more guidance there for us out there that are, seeking, just any type of information. But hopefully. Okay. Any more questions? All right, so we can move on to student services. Mr. Johnson?
Hi.
Hi.
My written report actually is on page 45 of the board handouts. I have a couple of items that I wanted to just mention, and then I have something else that came up today that I really think warrants sharing with you all. As you know, when we shut down, a lot of meetings were missed. We finished the annual reviews through June, but we still had some catching up to do with 504 meetings and some triennials, and things have been going along pretty well. We expect to be fully caught up by the end of November. Also, the members of the department have been engaged in both face-to-face and distant learning instruction, depending on whether the students are in school or have chosen remote learning. Amy's done a wonderful job of working with the department members to put schedules together that meet the kids' needs. And the parents that have been participating in the virtual 504 and PPT meetings have taken time to express their appreciation to the staff members for all of the work they've done to reach out to their students, either in school or online. One of the things about all of the jobs that administrators have is, I've never met an administrator who didn't have at least part of the motivation of their choosing to do this work that didn't involve doing good things for kids and helping to make decisions. And I'm really blessed with the opportunity to work with some really quality people in this school district and community. We have an older student that we're still responsible for, who has a lot of talent in the area of art, has been dealing with autism all that student's life, and with the related social anxieties that are built into that. And in trying to put a program together for this person post high school, the mother reached out to me and wanted to have access to an iPad, one of the large iPads, so that the person could continue to work on artwork and develop portfolios and things along that line. And the average transition agency really doesn't have the resources to support a person with artistic talents and that wants to develop their skills, ability, and their marketability. And I thought of Nancy McBride, and I reached out to her, and coincidentally, she had just bought one of those special iPads and was in the process of trying to learn how to use it. And she agreed to be a mentor to the student and works with her the two of them work together every week, doing artwork together. They just finished jointly contributing artwork to a show in the region. And I just wanted to know how things were going. So I sent an email and asked how things were going. And I got the greatest response today. It was very heartwarming as she talked about how their relationship has built, how the things she's doing with the student, where they're going, the future plans they have to visit colleges, and museums and things along that line. And it just, so I responded to the email indicating how much it meant to me today to read that and know that this connection that I had put together was having such a great benefit for both of them. And I just wanted to share that with you tonight, the camaraderie that's developed. And we've got some really good people that work in and care for the kids in our community. So I just wanted to share that with you. It just made me feel really good. One other item that I'm working on is we do have a small number of students that do need transition programming between high school and turning 22. And I've had some conversations with Chris Champlin, who's the Director of Student Services from Griswold. And I'm very much interested in using them as our preferred program. It's close, transportation is not an issue. Their work sites are very similar to other programs that are available in the area. And they have students working at Mohegan Suns, which is the same business that other agencies have. So, and there's a significant savings. So it's a good economic opportunity too. I wanted to share that with you tonight. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you, Lloyd. That was, it's always good to hear, some good news stories too about, what each individual, unit is doing. And obviously yours is near and dear to you and to all of us, and especially bringing in, someone like Nancy who can help in an extra way and give back even more to the community, even after retirement, is wonderful to hear. So thank you. So I guess we can now move on to the superintendent's report.
Yes, I want to thank everybody. Welcome Valerie as a new board member. Appreciate that. And I have to say that Voluntown is right in the middle of EastCon and Learn. And because of that, there's superintendents groups that meet in both groups. And with our 8 designated high schools, we have students in both regions. And therefore, it's important to network with the superintendents in each area. This past week, there were meetings with EastCon, and there were 31 superintendents present. And last week, there was a meeting with Learn, and there were 29 superintendents that were there. And I tend to like to participate in both because we have high school students that go into both regions. We also utilize the special ed services of EastCon, so it's important to keep that network. Now, it's very interesting. As superintendent of Voluntown, I am interacting with other superintendents about challenges and what's happening. And I really feel that, I'm blessed here in Voluntown. Number one, I have a Board of Education that's really allowed us to make adjustments and to make some wise financial choices. And as we prepared for this year, I'll say it again, the board allowed us to make some adjustments within the budget, and we were able to take care of things that we anticipated we needed, as well as propose a 0% or no mill increase budget. And that approach of being able to be flexible with the finances has allowed us to take on some real challenges. And one of the largest challenges was technology. And fortunately, as we go through the future, I probably won't repeat ourselves there, but we were able to get an ESSER grant that allowed us to update our Wi-Fi and to also increase some of our technology capacity. And then when the state started issuing Chromebooks, I got together with the staff and we requested the 75 Chromebooks. And I believe they just arrived this week and we're now distributing them, as Amy mentioned. Plus that gave us some hotspots. But the most important thing about the transition to this year, and it is the 50th day of school, we have a faculty and staff that has been just tremendous in making adjustments for students. I believe we're a little bit over 50 students for remote learners. Is that right, Amy? Yes. So, Chris, that's been pretty close since the start of the year. It's a few less than from the beginning. But the adjustments that we've made with faculty, being able to assign a remote learning teacher, a distance learning teacher, to help aid the students, as well as making adjustments, has helped us complete a fine balance. And well, the goal that I have is to try to maintain a school and keep it open for as long as we can and follow based on our safety procedures. So that's an important thing. Now, to get into my list of things, as you know, in the packet, you'll see I have my calendar events, and it's been quite extensive coming in and working on a variety of topics. In enrollment, we again have 248 pre-K through 8th grade students, and there's 130 high school students. And please note, high school, 4 years ago, there was 128. 3 years ago, 123 high school students. Last year, 131, and this year, 130. Our high school population has been consistent. And then in our elementary level, I mentioned the 248 this year. It was 265 last year, so we were preparing for a decline. 269 the year before, and 4 years ago, it was 281 students. But that's part of the monthly enrollment report. We receive money that comes into the school district, and as of this date, we have sent $16,215.20 to the town for money that we receive, whether it's for a reimbursement for insurance, for having excellent procedures on safety, or it's part of it's part of another grant reimbursement. And last year we returned $69,420. The year before, $96,408. The year before, $77,542. So as you can see, budget-wise, we have an expenditure-only budget. And if we receive money into the district, we have to return that over to the town. But please note that when I first arrived 15 years ago, I mentioned to the board with special ed that there's an excess cost grant where they give money back to the town for the cost of special education. And each year I tell the board and I tell the selectmen, I would want to have full budgeting for the Board of Education. And if there are excess fund grants that come back, those go back into the undesignated fund of the town. And as I mentioned, this helps to stabilize our budget because the formulas for special ed can change. I gave you a report for the lunch program. This is the annual report. And basically our food services program costs about a little over $100,000 a year. And we've been able to maintain the program. But this year is just a little different because we're not serving a sit-down meal. We're using grab-and-go breakfasts and lunches. And in the food services report, it indicated that we were currently serving about 79 meals per day for this year. And quite frankly, last year, that's usually up to 130. And we need to look at ways that we can increase the number of people using the grab and go breakfast. Please note that there's no charge for the students for this, for their lunch or their breakfast. This is completely reimbursable by the current decision by the USDA to make sure that students are being fed. And as Amy mentioned in her report, we're seeking ways to try to get meals to every student, breakfast and lunch. And we may be coming up with some creative ideas within the next 2 weeks to see if we can issue those lunches and breakfasts, because especially the breakfasts, because we do get a significant reimbursement. And plus the other thing is it offers meals for everybody.
Is that something that can be incorporated into the kids' snack time, Amy? Or does it have to be completely separate?
Well, it's supposed to be served as a breakfast meal. One of the ideas that we had was, and I don't know, there are certain specifications around breakfast and lunch. And like I said before, breakfast is so hard because kids eat very early. Sometimes kids will take a breakfast and keep it as a snack because they might have already had breakfast, but they don't have a snack, and we'll let them, absolutely take one. But I wondering if we could actually send kids home with the breakfast in the afternoon so they could have it the next morning. We had talked about that just because it's so early, but I'm not sure if they can have it as a snack based on the lunch program guidelines. So it would just depend. I can
early, like if they did snack time early, it's not one of the
because some some do have really early snack where they could have the 10 o'clock snack. That's you can have cereal at 10 o'clock. You could have cereal at 3 o'clock if you wanted. But I think like getting those numbers up is what we're trying to focus on. And I mean, we're practically giving it away. Like, please take breakfast. And, so I'm not sure if we might pilot like a week of afternoon. We could always pilot, in the morning. Sometimes I wonder, like, should we just put it out in the hallway and put out 10 bags and see who, if somebody wants to take it as that and save it. It's just hard to know what kids.
Kathy, you're muted.
Who wants it and who versus who doesn't want it,
I was just, Frankie had said to me, they didn't have breakfast this year.
Mm-hmm.
Used to grab it last year. So it may not be quite as visible as you think, or maybe it's just there and they're handing people bags to take to the classroom.
And you know what, Kathy? I've heard that.
And stuff.
Amy, you're off. We may have to come back to Amy. I think
and I think because Tom will just send us our lunch menu, and I think that's it, is that people don't realize that we actually still. I think that's also another key point there.
I'm not sure they all know it's there and that they can take it to their classroom. I try to get him to take it because he's not a good eater first thing in the morning. I'm lucky to have a glass of milk or something before he leaves.
Well,
and,
this
he goes, they don't have breakfast anymore.
Yeah.
That
definitely, I think we just have to be creative. I would love kids to get more lunch also. And it's really just dependent on the menu. I know little kids, they love their typical things, chicken nuggets and pasta and that type of stuff. It's the big kids that, I think they miss the other selections that we've had. So that makes it a little bit harder for them. But I'm hoping Tom and I can work together in getting a few different things on the menu just so that way more kids would be interested in getting it. It's free. We get reimbursement for it, like full reimbursement. So I'd love to get more kids to take it at least.
Are the
pizza
food
every-
items for breakfast something that can travel? So if it was something that went home the night before, is it going to be stable enough to be able to give a child the following morning? I do like the idea of sending it home because my daughter is up at 6 eating breakfast, and the idea of eating again when she gets to school, it's just not.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the only thing would be like a milk. So that's what we'd have to find out from Tom. Like when they left if they took the bag at, this time, like let's say 3:20, okay, they're walking out and they're getting on their bus. And it's basically just cereal, maybe a muffin, prepackaged, that type of stuff. Is the milk okay for that? It's the milk that I'm concerned. Like, I just want to make sure that's okay if we do it for overnight.
I know
wonder-
they do have milk out there that's shelf stable too, because you can buy it on the grocery store shelf. So I wonder if that's an option.
That might be an option for us. I wonder too, not that we want to overfeed our kids, but sometimes if it's like brought to the classroom and asked who would like to save one for later, like Megan said, it's possible, we could definitely, do something like that. So I think it's just being creative. We want to get the reimbursement, and be able to, let kids eat and have that stuff.
I was gonna say, my kids went down to Griswold during the summer. They loved those meals. But they sent home on Fridays milk for the whole weekend.
Right.
In the bags. And
in the bag.
Yeah, in a bag. And, with the idea that you're smart enough to put it in the fridge within a reasonable time.
Right.
But they were sending home milk.
Well, our breakfast items are in bags when the students come in. That's the grab and go component.
Right.
But this is going to be a priority that we're looking at over the next few weeks. Next on your packet is just the CABE Liaison newsletter, and it's for, the October 30th and the November issue, and it just has some policy highlights. There's also a letter from the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development listing the 2020 Connecticut Distressed Municipal List. And actually, Voluntown is on the list. And whatever this list is, I think I'm going to write to the school finance project, Dee Dee, take this as a note, and request, do they use the distress list when they're developing the formula for the education cost sharing grant? This is, Chris, you're smiling. This is a continuous saga to have them not cut Voluntown as much as they do. And I was actually surprised when this list came out. So I want to use this to see what we can do, because that community, that finance group has some things in the formula that I have never been able to figure out. And when I go to meetings, I always ask them questions, and sometimes they've become a little bit angry with me because they look at it from a different point of view. But from our end, it's worth fighting for, and we'll have a continuing saga. The next item on the list in the packet is a code of ethics for the Board of Education. And this is just based on CABE's standards of leadership for members of boards of education. And I thought that would be very interesting with what's happening. Another letter is from Tracy Hansen, the first selectman, notifying the board and committee chairs of the following newly approved policies and guidelines for Zoom meetings, and we're following those based on this meeting. And there's also information with regards to COVID procedures. I also wanted to mention that, Chris, you mentioned school safety and other things, but we wound up submitting our all hazard plan for 2020, 2021. And this is mandated to be sent to the Connecticut Department of Homeland Security by November 1st of each school year. The plan has to receive a sign off from the Voluntown Emergency Management Coordinator, the Fire Chief, the Medical Office, the UNCUS Health Director, the First Select Woman, Board of Ed Chair, the VES Principal, Superintendent of Schools, and the State Police. And we have a school safety committee that has been meeting every year for many years. And this plan, it contains all of our procedures and other types of things that are like classified information, so that it's not posted in the public, but this is reviewed by the Department of Homeland Security. And if there are any updates that are needed, then they make sure that they ask us to make some adjustments. We have not had to make adjustments in our plan. The other thing is the day-to-day operations of our school safety is guided through a crisis intervention team that practices safety drills, guides procedures for maintaining school safety, and develops approaches for a wide range of different scenarios. And the people on this committee, they meet the first Monday of every month, and they've been meeting every month since I've arrived here, and even before, so this is something that is part of the mainstay of what we've done. That's what I have, Kate, for my report.
Okay, thank you, Adam. That was a good review. I think we can move. Do we have any questions for Adam before we move on? You always give us a wealth of information. It's kind of, interesting to move from a COVID framework from the town to CABE to everything, all things safety. So thank you for all you do to help us stay in the know, because I really do appreciate getting, your updates at the town level and so forth. I did send that CABE letter to our fellow board members, just the newsletter, but there are a few workshops. If you want to take a look at that, I think there's just a few, I forget the dates, but it's I think the 17th. It's coming up pretty quickly, but it's only an hour and a half or so webinar that we could hop onto. So if we could just coordinate back with Dee Dee, if you're interested in attending any of those sessions, I think that, they would be worthwhile to listen in on.
Okay, yeah, that was in the packet. I missed it on the backside of a page. It's right after the lunch report. So the board members do have those with the sessions of upcoming webinars and policy development.
Yeah. So, I had spoken with Dee Dee earlier about getting that coordinated. So she's our go-to person for anytime a board member wants to attend something from CABE, we just need to kind of work through Dee Dee on that. So just let her know if you're interested. Okay. So are we okay with committee reports? I think do we need to review any parts of the committee reports? We're all good?
You're in the committee report is in the consent agenda.
Right, okay. And we always have it down, and I always wonder if we need to pull something out of it.
Any questions? Yes.
We can move right along if we're all in agreement on that. So, okay, well, moving on to old business. Item number 1 is the 2021 budget preparation process, reviewing transportation, maintenance, and health benefits.
Okay, again, I gave the board the updated monthly budget preparation timeline for developing the 21-22 budget. And then I also included a rather lengthy newsletter with regards to the budget preparation. And as you can see, it talks about the documentation of the cost-saving efforts of the Board of Education. It also gives the budget history. And as I mentioned, this year, out of the total budget for the town, the Board of Ed is at 77.09%, and the town's portion of that is 22.91%. And 4 years ago, the Board of Ed's portion was 80.06%. 0.75%, and the town was 19.25. So we are on a trend of costing the total town budget a smaller percentage each year. And this is part of the strategy that we're using with declining enrollment. I also wanted to note that basically our last 4 budgets, the annual increase has actually been an average decrease of like $2,900 per year. So we're trying to maintain consistency with the budget. I went over some of the things that we returned to the town. And you can read through the memo. I'm not going to go through every single item, but that will probably be part of the introduction when we prepare for the town meeting at the end of the year for approving the 21-22 budget. I did want to go on to the history of the maintenance budget. And this is very interesting because in the report, I gave you a 12-year history of the budget, and the average that we spent is $399,732. And this year's budget is $385,109. So we are trying to maintain a budget that's consistent. Now, please make sure you understand that budget includes heating oil, electricity, and all maintenance items. I also gave you a summary of the propane. And propane, we have 6 huge tanks that are between the school and Constitution Field. And the average cost of that over a number of years has been $11,171. Electricity right now, over the past 5 years, has been an average cost of about $62,022. Please note that the previous 9 years, the average cost was $70,149. So we have seen some decline in the cost. Chris?
Adam, have you noticed a decrease at all with the LED bulbs and new fixtures? Has that made an appreciable difference to the?
And we are monitoring that because of the kilowatt hours. If you, I'm not sure which page it's on your computer, but if you look at the usage, we've seen a decline, and it's very interesting, Chris, on the issue. The transmission costs, for some reason, have stayed somewhat the same. So, you know, it's an interesting thing, but the electricity has given us some savings. And, you know, last year, our actual expenditure, I mentioned over the last 5 years, it's been $62,000, but last year, it cost us $50,875. So we are realizing some savings, okay? And it's something that we're constantly monitoring, and hopefully we can get some, you know, interesting procedures on that. There's a page missing from the board, and I just picked that up today, but I did want to mention that the transportation budget, for the last 15 years, our average transportation cost has been $443,166. I'll put this in the minutes of the board meetings. That's the average for 15 years. Excuse me, yeah, and then we have budgeted $447,518 for this year. So you can see that we're still staying within the average. It has only increased $3. And in the report for transportation, you can see there's some years where we do spend a little bit more. But we own our own buses. And last year, the Board of Ed allowed us to pay off the bus lease purchase. This means that if our buses maintain the integrity that we want them to, we may have 5 years where we'll not have any bus payments. And the way that we monitor this is based on the wear life of the buses, because we see an uptick in maintenance. And when I first arrived here, we had buses that had different engines, different specs, different things. When we do a lease purchase, we spend an incredible amount of time writing our own specifications. And with keeping the buses the same, then we're able to maintain them a little bit easier. The buses even have hoods that you can pick up to have access to the engine. It doesn't require you going inside the bus and removing a number of things to get to the engine. And I really do hope that and think that we can do that. But normal maintenance, I know that, you know, there was an uptick in maintenance last year because we wound up replacing tires. The buses had finished, you know, 3 years. And so that's a purchase that's part of the wear life. And the roads in Voluntown really do, you know, impact the wear life of our buses. It's very interesting. If you ever drive a bus, I appreciate the skills of the bus drivers with some of the roads that they go on. But to maintain that consistency. And the other thing that happens in transportation is when I attend larger meetings, one of the biggest challenges that school districts had was renegotiating bus contracts, because they didn't use their buses and there were cost impacts that they had that they could not change. And so we run our own bus transportation system. And that amount that I just mentioned includes the buses, the fuel, the payment to the bus drivers, you know, insurances and other types of things. So other systems have gone out and they've contracted services, but based on what I've observed, I really would like to continue with our own bus company. If we were to contract out, we would have to find some legal expenses for the attorney to go over a bid process with an RFP. And the other thing is the RFP that I last put together several years ago, when we were thinking of going out for a contract, was about 80 pages long. And you have to make sure that you're very specific, because once you sign a contract, any little thing that's a change is an additional cost. And we can avoid that because we have school site authority over our transportation department. So that was the update on the issues of what we were doing today with the electricity, maintenance, transportation. The one thing that I added was the health expenditures. And I found this to be very interesting because you have an 8-year history of what we budgeted and what the estimated expenses were for health insurance. And I just wanted to mention something here because if I can find it. Well, you could look, this year our estimated cost for health insurance, this is what the Board of Ed pays, and that's $625,522. And we had budgeted $643,678, but we had a retirement, and so we did save some money with health benefits. But who knows? Somebody could walk in the door and say, I got married and now I want health benefits for husband and spouse. So this is somewhat of a moving number. But if you look back in the actual expenditures, we're spending less this year than we did last year. We're spending less than 2 years ago. No, less than 2015-16, we actually spent $645,000. And then back in 2014-15, we spent $636,000. And way back in May of 2012, we were facing a bill of $800,000 for our health insurance because we had a 36-member group. And in the Anthem Blue Cross review, they were raising our rates 36%. And we were able to be one of the 2 school districts in the state that could make the decision quick enough to move over to the Connecticut partnership. And because we were one of the first groups that moved into that, we've been able to save incredible amounts of money since that time. And if at the time when we made that move, I never thought that we would wind up many years later paying less money than we were projected to spend so many years ago. So that's part of the health insurance. For the budget process, the next month we'll be going over curriculum, and Amy and I intend, and Lloyd intend to give you a comprehensive curriculum report with some of the things that are happening right now. But during this time of COVID, we're probably going to be strengthening the remote learning and technology component of our overall curriculum and how that supports it. And then in January, I give you my initial superintendent's budget report for the 21-22 budget. If there's any questions, I'm open for this.
Kathy, you're muted.
I did want to say we were lucky to be able to switch over because the teachers were so amendable. If they hadn't have been willing to just open their contract for one item thing, we wouldn't have been able to do it. That's why most school districts couldn't, but our teachers agreed to open for, you know, when we laid out how much money we would save, they were willing to do it. And in fact, it decreased their benefits a little, but not substantially, but they were willing to go for it. So on their part, that was very good because some towns had to wait until the next contract, which was 2 or 3 years for them.
And that was a budget meeting where at the annual town meeting, the Board of Ed received a round of applause.
So do we have any other questions for Adam regarding this items of budget, health benefits, or transportation or electricity? I will just say, I guess, a plug for next meeting to keep in mind my ever always asking for the update on adding the foreign language teacher as a curriculum update, but we can talk about that next month.
Yes, we're that's a standing item for each budget year.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to the COVID-19 update.
Yes, the first part that I want to, and it's in your package, there's a summary about the COVID Relief Fund grant. And this has been a journey. This is a grant that's different than any other grant, or I should say fund that I've worked with. Initially, I submitted things for the whole year and gave the state a list of $565,000 that we thought that we could use for supporting the unanticipated expenses for the COVID relief. And the state went through that and they allocated funds, and we received an allocation of $260,474 on the list. That's what they determined. That was 42% of the request. And some of my other superintendents said that's one of the highest returns that came out to a school system for the COVID relief funds. Now, the state asked that we submit requests. And if you can remember at the September meeting, I brought up some issues with purchasing a van, purchasing the AC, and also upgrading the ventilation system. Well, I went back and forth a few times. They wouldn't fund the van. So that was taken off the initial list. And then there were a few other items as they went through the distribution. And the grant that they sent back, well, the grant that I sent in was $207,340. One of the things that was confusing about this grant is it wasn't for expenditures for the whole year. It's only expenditures from March when we closed until December 31st. And of course, I made pleas and requested if we could encumber the funds for expenses after December 31st. Of course, that was denied. And so the final allocation, which is on the next page, we have been awarded, it says $207,340, but you take the van out, and the allocation is actually $176,639. Now, this money is available for us, and we've already made some purchases. Now, what we're dealing with the state now is to see if we can, get credit and use those funds for the purchase orders that we've already made. There are expenses that we have from now until December 31st that we can put in for, and we'd like to be able to draw directly from the funds. So we're in conversation with our auditor to see what's the best approach for this. If the auditor says that we can utilize all these funds now, then so be it. If they say that you can only authorize the funds that you draw down the funds that you haven't expended, then we will have to go back to the town and ask them to give the board some money to make up for the funds that we've expended. But we don't know what that is. So there's some different controversies that are surrounding how the funds are actually allocated. And when I called the state and the person in charge of this $116 million, I said, are you familiar with the procedures for towns for expending funds? And they said, well, no, not really. And I wish that they had just placed it into a grant, because like we get the Title I grant, and that's placed in an account, and we can write purchase orders directly against that. So we're still going through the procedures for that, but I believe that we have been approved, and we now have access to $176,000. And if you look at the list, it's all there with the things that we've expended for district personnel. We have a virtual learning teacher. The money for that distance learning teacher is in there. We have a long-term substitute, and the money for that is in there. So there's wages that we've done, and we also have funds that we put in for an extra part-time custodian and cleaning services. And then, of course, the big portion of the grant is going toward PPE for staff and students, ventilation enhancements. Please note the air conditioning is now up to $28,100. The state has approved this. And the reason that it's increased since I talked to the board in September is that we had a need to create a space for a special ed, for some special ed services. And we took the computer office and moved the computer office and created that space. But there's a ventilation issue that we want to resolve. And we're going to install the air conditioning to help that room with ventilating to meet, the needs of instructional needs. And then, of course, there's cleaning supplies and equipment, $29,000, but that section totals $88,891. So you can see that, there's a wide range of funding that we can have. And this is a grant I never expected to receive. And it's fortunate because in doing the budget and projecting it, I thought that we would have to start, really cutting back perhaps on some other areas. But this is going to be very helpful as we develop next year's budget. Oh, by the way, if we have these funds for the air conditioning, that means that $28,000 does not go into a capital improvement plan. So this is also part of a long-term savings. Are there any questions on the COVID relief funds?
Okay. Well,
Kate,
yeah.
Kate, just to document this, I think it would be good if the board just made a motion that the Board of Ed approves the expenditures of the COVID relief fund allocation as approved by the Connecticut State Department of Education. And this just documents that this was reviewed by the board. And I'm requesting this because if I'm writing letters, I sometimes include motions by the board that shows, that you're supporting these things, and it's part of a planned process to just try to access some additional funds. And it's all part of a history of showing them that we're watching every single expenditure. The other thing is that there's about $83,000 that's still left in that account. And I didn't mention this in the discussion. When the funds was first sent out to the superintendents, you had to really read through it very quickly. And there were several school districts that missed submitting funds. And there were other school districts that put in, just a few dollars rather than seeking out and really trying to identify, what things would qualify for this. And I think because of that, the state is looking and to perhaps do a reissue, perhaps to some of the communities that may have missed out on the grant. But that's just a theory that I have. But I do want to make some requests to see if we can access the additional dollars after January 1st, as I mentioned.
I'm kind of skeptical about spending a lot of cash on capital improvements when we don't physically have the cash or even a guarantee of it. And the state does have a $2.1 billion deficit. And I really, as you know, because we get told we have to fund things all the time that there's no funds forthcoming for, I'm worried that we could start projects that we won't be reimbursed for and we'll be on the hook for all of them.
Well, this is part of the money that they did approve, Chris. So I'm pretty sure that this money is part of that 176,000. And I have the letter from the state that says we're approved for 176,000. The issue is the reimbursement. We spend the money, we just save all of our purchase orders, all of our receipts, which we have, and we submit to those to the state. And do they give it back to the town or do they give it back to the school district? Whatever the case, the town of Voluntown is going to receive these funds, period. The 176,000.
Well, I think we need clarification on where it goes first before we go ahead and spend anything.
Beg your pardon?
Sorry, Kathy.
Sorry. I think Adam had said the air had to be done anyway, regardless of where the money comes from. He's hoping it will come from this. but the air conditioner.
No, Kathy, yeah, it is coming from this because it's
Yeah.
been approved.
But you're saying the air condition, they're saying don't do the air conditioning. We need to do it either way to get the proper ventilation.
Well,
Yeah.
I have the money at hand. I would not want to decline that. The only reason I'm asking for the board to approve this is to show that they have reviewed this and that they support this. And that's a way to increase our chances of making sure that we can get future funding. And it just shows our accountability system.
So the motion is just to accept the money and
Yes,
follow through on it,
Yes, to accept
not
the.
to spend it on any.
Approve the expenditures as allocated by the Connecticut State Department of Education.
This is full reimbursement, not a percentage.
No, this is full reimbursement, 176,000. And if you look at that list of expenditures, quite frankly, we've already made all of the expenditures that are in the upper part of the list. These are things that we needed to do to get the building ready for the social distancing and for COVID-19. And we had to buy personal protection equipment. We had to hire an extra custodian. We had to hire the virtual learning teacher. And these are all recognizable expenses that this fund will allocate funds toward.
So we already have a bid for 176,000 for the air conditioning?
No, the board waived the bid process in September.
So we don't even know how much it's going to cost.
Yes, it's going to cost $28,100. It's on this list that I sent to you.
I'm not finding the list. That's why I'm looking for this list. Where is this list?
What
What page is it on of the PDF?
We sent you a packet with all of a hard copy, and then it's on your computer. And Kate, does somebody have what page? Chris, what page?
Page 70.
Page
Thanks,
70.
You're welcome.
Adam, have you already asked Tracy that if for some reason the money gets returned to the town as opposed to the school, if she will allow the school to use that money?
This is what we're in discussions with, and we've been back and forth with the auditor, and we need recommendations. And every reopen committee, I have asked for a ruling on this. And at this point in time, we're talking directly with the auditor to see what the procedures are. Whatever the case, we are going to have some of the funds that I believe we can directly draw down on. And what we want is when the monies come in, the town would set aside a fund that we can draw directly from, and that would be paid for by the state.
So Tracy is on board with that. It's just a matter of the auditor allowing it.
Yeah, she's seen this list and participated in all of the reopen committees.
Yeah, but that's not the question. Have they agreed to give us back these funds if they should receive them? I think we need to find that out first before we approve anything.
We're not, I don't think you guys understand. We're not approving air conditioning. We're approving trying to get this money, and he wants it to say in it that the board wants him to go after this thing. This has nothing to do with the air conditioning.
It sounded like to me that we're approving.
Am I correct, Adam? Nothing to do with the air conditioning.
We've already approved him going to the state for this money. Now it's just a matter of showing that we're aware of what the money is being spent
Yes,
on.
and if I didn't put it in,
Megan, like it gives the numbers.
approve the expenditure of $176,039.
Yeah.
Megan, you're correct. As approved by the Connecticut State Department of Education, I received 3 days ago a communication from the State Department of Education that these funds are approved for us to use for the relief fund. So we have been approved by the state, and I'm sure that we can work out the mechanics of this money. Whatever the case, we have purchase orders, we have receipts, and we can show where we took this from the budget.
I imagine.
So we're not approving the money, we're actually approving to go ahead and spend this right now.
Well, I've already expended.
They've already spent it.
I've expended
It's
almost,
gone.
almost
But
half,
how much have you spent already?
because they were unanticipated expenses.
No, that's not what I'm asking, Adam. How much have you spent already that we don't have the funds for?
Everything above the, well,
We're just they're asking for a motion here.
I
Start. I
think
mean,
it's time to break that out because the virtual learning teachers' wages go from the beginning of the year until December 31st. So, you know,
So you don't know how much we've spent, but we're gonna approve
Oh,
something.
I know how much we've spent. I just didn't figure out that I would have to be answering and dividing it up into what we've spent already versus what we intend to spend.
yeah,
But
the total value is 176,000, correct? Like approximately 600 something
yes.
to spend.
And the custodian, we know that we're going to spend $5,400, but we still have November and December that's coming from those wages. So everything ends at December 30th.
Up to what?
Ventilation issue we would have anyway. Am I correct in that? So by using these grant funds, we're kind of saving the local taxpayer from doing something that would need to be done. Do we
Yes.
know the school does have ventilation problems? We discuss it frequently.
He's got to do the ventilation and hopefully.
In the classrooms that have not yet been ventilated, yes.
And the grant funds will pay for that instead
Rather
of a
than,
capital improvement locally.
And we will take that off of the capital improvement plan that was going to be an expenditure either next year or the following year.
We make a motion?
I can't go with this without having a
I'll
bid.
second the motion.
Okay. We have a,
What is the motion?
what'd you say?
What is the motion?
Motion is that the Board of Education approves the expenditures already allocated from the Corona Relief Fund in, what's the amount though, Adam?
Yes, with the amount, the approved, this is an approved amount from the state. So the Board of Ed approves the expenditures of $176,639 of coronavirus relief fund allocations as approved by the Connecticut State Department of Education.
That's the motion. Do we have a motion on that?
I seconded it, and I think Erica did it first.
Erica, you, based on that language, you passed the motion, okay. Kathy, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Scott?
And please note that I have had to go back and forth with explanations of expenditures, and they have had the Office of Budget Management review our requests. And the Office of Budget Management said that these are legitimate expenses for the school district. And I truly believe that we can work something out with the auditor to make sure that if not the Board of Education, the town gets this money deposited in the undesignated funds.
I just hope we see it. I hope it doesn't get sucked into the town coffers and disappears.
No, I think that, well, if we have to go to a town meeting to ask for approval for money that doesn't impact the local taxpayer, reimbursed, I'm in hope the town would approve that, but I've never had to go back to the town in 15 years of being the superintendent here.
Well, having heard the conversations over our reopen committee meeting as well as a person on that committee, I know we've discussed this each and every meeting out of the 20 and where this relief fund is going and what status it's in. So thank you for that update for the board to get them up to date with it. And, it's, as long as it gets to the right place in our schools, that would be a good relief for us. Okay, moving along, the reopening update.
Yes, the reopening committee has been meeting since July 7th, 2020, and we've been coordinating issues. The reopen committee, as Amy mentioned a lot of it in her report, has really worked closely with Uncas Health District, the First Select Woman, and other schools, and making sure that we're appropriately dealing with the adjustments we've had to make with COVID-19. And they have been tremendous because, as I said, in that list of expenditures that we have, those were all legitimate things to make sure that the building is safe for students. So the big thing that's coming up is, and the discussion was, to return to school on Monday, right after the Thanksgiving break, rather than some school districts were talking about giving 3 or 4 days, but we are really, and in one section, there were 3 or 4 school districts that wanted to extend it a little bit. But in the other area, all the superintendents said that they wanted the children to come back on that Monday after Thanksgiving. So the issue here is that we're going to bring the students back on Monday, November 30th, as approved in the calendar. And that will not be a remote learning day. I think, as Amy mentioned in her meeting, if we find that there is an issue and we have to move to remote learning, we will do that. But since March, we've learned a lot about safety and how we can social distance and how we can wear masks and how we can wash our hands and maintain a safe school environment. So therefore, I think we have things in place to bring the students back. And if there is an issue with things that happen to families over the Thanksgiving break, we will make adjustments as quickly as possible, as we have been. And there have been some students and faculty that we've placed on quarantine for a little while. They successfully returned, as I reported at the last board meeting. And as issues come up, we have the capacity for contact tracing and for making adjustments in the system. So I would just like to inform the board that our students will return to school on Monday, November 30th, 2020, after the Thanksgiving break. And this is the decision and recommendation that the reopen committee had made. And we did have some faculty requests to say, could we delay it a little bit? But the decision administratively has been to have the students return.
I think the administration and staff are doing a magnificent job of this school of keeping our community and kids safe. We've had no issues here. You turn the news on, you see it all over the state. And you guys are really doing fantastic here. And it's noticed, and please keep it up.
Thank you, Chris. And it's been a unique experience. So.
I have just heard via the grapevine, a couple of families, different families that are going to Florida. Are we asking them to have a test when they come back? Or
the only thing that we can do is to issue a statement, and this is a question that we've been receiving. So there'll be some statements in the newsletters, and maybe even just sending some hard copy home saying, please, try to protect the students as much as possible. But this is a huge family event, and it's just a very interesting experience. And of course, the governor in the past, he made a decision in March to close all of the schools. But right now, the emphasis is being placed on local school districts to make their own decisions. And what we're doing is just trying to set up the safety parameters, saying, please, if you're traveling, and then there's the requirements for some testing and other things when people are coming back from some areas that Connecticut as a whole states that you must have some testing and you must show us that you're,
Been tested.
COVID-free.
So if we are notified, or if Amy is notified, or somebody's notified that somebody's traveling to one of those red states, which I think 46 of the states are now red.
Yes.
We're enforcing that either quarantine or test, correct? We're not going to allow them to come to school. We're not just suggesting they test, right? We're requiring it, correct?
Correct. So if a family reports to me that they are traveling, then we, I do reach out to them, or if they have reached out to me. And as I've said before, kids will always tell us. So it's much better for us to know, just so that way then we can just give them that information from the state. So I always forward out the information from the State Department of Ed and the traveling restrictions that are being asked and reinforced. And then it's not a 14-day quarantine. It would be, I know by heart, it's a 72-hour prior to returning to Connecticut. And then or upon return to Connecticut, it's a test until a negative PCR is received to us. So that's what I ask, is a negative PCR. And then they have to quarantine until that PCR test is forwarded to the nurse's office.
I guess when I worry about work, where I work, we're kind of in a similar position about what to do between all these holidays. Is like, if they have siblings and they're coming from colleges, from other places, returning home, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of all the circumstances that could come. And
I think the Department of Health, when we talked to them the other day, their stance is that it is better for children to be in school if possible, because it's more of a controlled environment. Mm-hmm. And if we are delaying because we think that it would help limit the spread, there was concern and talk that, when we say don't come to school, then kids are then gathering, outside of school in their cohorts, and then we're going to say, okay, now come back to school. So their stance was that if we have been successful and are continuing to be successful, barring anything. And so what will happen is, if, let's say, some cases come up that week, we'll look at classrooms. So can we close classrooms and still remain open? Or is this a little bit larger issue where maybe now we can't really just close classrooms? We have to, close for a few days and then, contact trace and then figure it out from there. So I don't think we know until we know.
An important piece of information, and just a few hours ago, I received a communication from Patrick McCormick. He's director of the Uncas Health District, and he has attended almost all of our reopened committees. And we asked him about testing, and the flyer states that over in Griswold, will send the flyer out. There'll be a no appointment drive-by COVID testing site, and that's going to be available, and it's close by for Voluntown. So we're trying to set up, the state is trying to set up, the health district is trying to set up more convenient ways for testing, especially during this uptick. And a little bit earlier today, I received a note from the superintendent in Griswold, and he said, Adam, we have to close for a few more days just based on the uptick that they have. So we're in communication with and networking with people within the region, but we're trying to set up ways that make it convenient. And I appreciate Patrick's follow through, because the testing and the testing results were a big part of the reopen committee's concern. And so therefore, if people are coming back, and Amy will probably be the one communicating with the families, she can give them that flyer and they can go right over to Griswold during those times for a drive-by testing. and it's
And
free.
Amy, if they choose not to test, are you switching them to distance learning for that quarantine period? Is that the intention?
Yes, they would move to distance learning for the 14 days. So they would not be permitted to come back unless they decided to test. And if they choose not to, then it's an automatic 14-day. They have to stay. Because we need to think about the integrity of our building and keeping that, maintaining and safe. And I will say that those who have traveled, our traveling families have been great. You know, they've traveled, been tested, they were cleared to come back. So they've done everything that I've asked of them and that the state has asked of them. So for those, you know, families that have traveled, it's been very easy and simple for them. And, you know, our teachers will provide work, or, you know, in that weird interim period of waiting for results in that, or if they choose not to test, then it would be a 14-day quarantine.
Yeah, I think they've a lot of people will get tested more now because from what I've heard, it's just the nasal swab. It's not the one that goes all the way back. So I mean, I can just imagine a 5 or a 6-year-old getting that one way back. If people know now that it's more of just that nasal swab, they're more inclined to let their kid get tested, I think.
I think so too. And that is one of the things, and I'm not going to go on about this because it's like my soapbox, but just the testing system in Connecticut versus the testing system in Rhode Island for K through 12. I wish Connecticut would have modeled a little bit more after that. It's been very successful. So hopefully, you know, with more testing sites, kids can get tested, even preschool kids. It's hard to sometimes find a testing center that will do younger students. So hopefully, and, you know, getting the test and just waiting a few days and knowing that it's negative and then being able to be safely and come back to school and do that in the month of December. So hopefully we'll be okay.
I know UCFS in Griswold is a local testing site that takes all ages. So just everyone should, you know, those watching or anybody that's interested knows that it's local and it's doing all ages. And just to go to the point of our, you know, as being part of these conversations every week and speaking with the Department of Health, I know it's a concern. The holidays are coming and you know, what the protocols are. And so as we've discussed, we're really focused on that. But Commissioner Cardona did submit a letter out to kind of give some guidance on it, because obviously it came up obviously across the state. And right now, what he did say was they're not, they don't believe it's warranted to do date-based closures, you know, for instance, specifically right after Thanksgiving or right after, or like a long-term closure, unless the cases dictate that. So it's really obviously localized monitoring of cases and so forth. And I think that really helps us maintain a good balance with being as safe as possible, but also, you know, feeling that we're getting guidance from the state level as well. So more to come there, always ever evolving. Adam, do we need to do anything about that Thanksgiving time? Or are we okay to move on?
I think I've informed the board, and I see agreement with returning on Monday. So I think the board is, you know, just in agreement with that. And I'll just reference that.
Okay. Any further questions?
I don't think a motion is needed unless one of the board members feels a motion is needed.
I'm good. Okay, so moving on to personnel.
Yes, approval of Linda Hanson as the school nurse. That requires a motion.
Motion.
Motion to approve Linda Larson, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And then it says SRBI teacher, scientific research-based interventionist, not teacher. It could be a tutor. And we are still advertising and looking for a person. And that is paid for out of the Title I grant. It's not paid for by Board of Ed funds, but of course the Board of Ed has to approve all personnel. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for the SRBI tutor.
No, we don't have anybody. Yeah,
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, do I have to? Okay.
hopefully by the next meeting.
Are we interviewing or are we?
No, we're advertising.
Advertising.
There's a real shortage.
Yeah.
You know, it's at one of those meetings, I asked how many of you are looking for teachers, and there were 12 hands of superintendents that went up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's
Some
very interesting.
SRBIs can be classroom based too, so.
Okay. We're open to move on to item number 5, faculty and staff assignments.
Yes, I just gave you a list of all the current faculty and staff. As of this point, the only person that isn't covered is the SRBI interventionist, and that's to be determined.
All right. Any questions on that? No. Moving on to item number 6, policy regulation and form number 4000, spot 1, title 9. I think it's
Yes, this is just a motion to approve using the number 5145.44. When we were doing the policy, we pulled the $4,000 number out, and when we went on the CABE website, they wanted to post it as policy number 5145.5. So I would just have the board make a motion to approve the number
So
change.
moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that was easy enough. Moving on to item number 7.
Yes, policy form and forms 511 and admissions policy 5122. There was a discussion about immigration and citizenship as not using that as to determine residency. And I did get a lengthy response from our attorney as per the board request. And the issue of immigration and citizenship was determined by the Supreme Court in Plyler versus Doe, a 1982 Supreme Court decision that said this cannot be used to determine residency for admissions. And please note, there's also a summary by the American Immigration Council that summarizes Plyler versus Doe. And as per the suggested CABE policy, there are several other documents such as lease agreement, mortgage document, property tax record, rent receipt, homeowner's insurance, current utility bill, current proof of government benefits, etc., that can be used to determine residency. So therefore, I would like to see a motion to approve. It's recommending that you approve both policies.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Discussion?
I'll second it.
All in favor to approve as reviewed? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Moving, so no more policy work, correct?
That's that involves a separate motion for policy. I'm sorry, 511, and so that motion would have been for 511, and we need another.
Right. Okay. All right. So we do.
Adam? Hey, Adam, can you forward us the copy of Fred's notes on this?
I sent you the. I
Sent a part of it. I'd like to see the whole thing.
I sent you, I think, 30 pages of information on that in the book packet.
I don't see it.
Yes, it's
If you could forward it, that'd be great.
It was in the packet and it was also sent to you a hard copy today.
in an envelope.
Yeah.
Your
It's in the packet. I'm looking at it.
What page?
On the packet.
It was a hard copy that was delivered
To your home.
today, Scott. You may not have received that yet.
Okay, so that's the issue. I just haven't
I don't
gotten
know where
it
they,
yet.
It was
Yeah.
also emailed
It was
though.
emailed to, I think, earlier this week, right?
Yes, it was emailed
the
last week.
decision wasn't emailed. The decision and the
It was-
Filer versus Doe is all in the packet that was dropped off today.
Yes.
Okay, so I just haven't gotten the packet yet.
Well,
It was
we
all in
delivered
the
it to your
email.
home.
They went to everybody's house.
I didn't get it.
I walk by my mail sometimes and don't even notice it.
It was in the original email, Adam.
Yes, and it was also
It was
the
in the
same
whole
document was
email.
in the email.
I'll find the page number.
I have a quick question on the policy 5111 that we just voted on, but I think they were flip-flopped in my packet, so I didn't ask it as part of it. There's a host statement in here to be completed if a child resides with another individual in the town. So is that it? Is that if a student's family lives out of town, but the student is going to Voluntown?
Well,
And
Megan,
what are the requirements? What are the requirements for that?
okay, Megan, with that, we have a service that we use from EastCon to determine residency. And if we get into situations that we need more information, we have somebody who is very skilled at that to make sure that it's within the legal requirements of policy. And they will check and they will give us a ruling. And they will state whether the person is residing in Voluntown or not. And sometimes in certain cases, there's, sharing of custody, and there's issues that have to, be determined on that. So we do have a follow-up, and we take that quite seriously.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we made a motion for, are there any more discussions for 5111? I think that was the former one. Now we would need a motion to approve a policy 5112 as presented. The age of attendance.
So if we do have a child that meets these criteria, that they're undocumented, they are coming to Voluntown, so we're gonna ask for at least the residency. We're gonna ask for a utility bill. We're gonna ask for something that proves that they're actually here. Or no?
There are,
Says.
in determining residency, we look, and if we feel that we have proof, I mean, if somebody has a rent agreement.
Oh, no, right.
We usually get two proofs of residency, and that's
So
enough.
that's what I was asking.
And then if there's a question on that, if I have a question, we immediately call the EastCon service, and we have an investigative service that reviews all of those and actually goes to the home and makes inquiries to determine that it's a legitimate residency. As I said, we take that quite seriously.
The problem in the past has not been anybody illegal. It's not non-citizens. They've been citizens trying to pretend they live here and they don't.
Right.
Is what the problem has been.
If the investigative service found an illegal immigrant, would they notify the proper authorities?
They're not allowed to. Schools in Connecticut are not allowed to notify. I know that.
Well, it's not the school, it's the actual
Well,
investigator.
he acts for us.
And Scott, in
That's
the email, it's
disgusting.
on, Scott, the pages from page 73 to page 116 was
You
all the
guys
stuff
should read
that
it and send it over for questions before the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, sent out last Friday.
We're not here forever.
It's muted.
I'm sorry, I have so many questions for you, Kathy.
No,
Well,
sorry.
it really isn't going to matter. When it comes up, it'll go to the state. It'll go to the state or go to.
I wasn't
our-
elected here just to sit here and say yes, yes, yes. I was elected to be up here and act my opinion and voice my opinion. That's what I was up here
I
elected
don't
to.
particularly.
Allow me to do what I'm supposed to be doing, which is
I know.
asking questions.
We're here
Simon
to
Taxpayer.
have a conversation and discussion in accordance with what we're trying to achieve here in terms of reviewing policy together. So Are there any questions, further questions on policy 5112, age of attendance?
Yeah, I think saving the taxpayers money from criminal activity is a little more than reviewing policy questions personally. I mean, I may be wrong in that, but stealing from every single person in town who's paying taxes is a criminal act.
And not cheap taxes neither.
I will say, if you read the language as it's written, the language does not indicate allowing somebody that is an illegal immigrant to go to school. You can't require their citizenship status to determine residency. So it's not, if I'm reading this properly, and Fred could obviously speak more to that, it's not a matter of letting somebody go to school. It's a matter of requiring that to determine residency. So for example, again, the way that I interpret it is if Amy is doing a residency determination and she feels as though somebody might be an illegal immigrant, she is not allowed to require them to provide citizenship or immigration status to determine residency. If that person can provide a tax bill, a homeowner's insurance policy, that kind of stuff, then that satisfies their burden of residency. Is that correct in the interpretation?
You're correct in reading it.
Thank you, Megan.
You can't make the decision whether they're legal or illegal, is what it says.
Yeah, and I don't know if that satisfies your concerns, Scott and Chris, but it literally says the district, when determining residency, shall not request documentation. This policy has nothing to do with actually allowing an illegal immigrant to attend school. I know it's splitting hairs, but I'm just pointing it out because it's pretty clear how it's written that that's the intention. I think it's to prevent people from discriminating against a permanent resident or somebody that is here legally that may look a little different or think something like that. It's to prevent them from being discriminated against.
Did they take a vote, Kate?
We haven't taken a vote yet for 1112. Well, 5112. Any more questions? All right. Do you have a motion to approve policy 5112 as presented?
Aye.
We need a motion.
Second.
Okay, Kathy, you made the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Move along.
All right, and Erica seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chris and Scott, any abstained? All right, motion carries. All right, item number 9, distance learning.
Yes. We reviewed a policy on distance learning, and as we're reviewing distance learning, we're receiving different addendums from the state. And this distance learning policy is more like a lesson plan to me. And rather than having the board write a policy on distance learning, especially one that has detailed scheduling activities, I believe that this could fall under just administrative guidelines. And we reviewed this with the Reopen Committee. And I will tell you, all of the issues related to special education and instruction, I really don't think that we need a policy on distance learning, because we're finding that things are changing on a regular basis. And this would require going back to the board and saying, okay, there's been a new development, you have to revise a policy, and it's not a required policy. So some things can fall under administrative guidelines. So it's our recommendation that we just leave it as administrative guidelines. And I gave you a 4-page summary, I believe, in the packet for the administrative guidelines.
And Amy, you had a chance to review that for accuracy, correct?
I did, and my recommendation is that we just don't get stuck in a policy and then have to offer something through distance learning that may then have changed, and then we have to come back to the board and then update and change the policy. So, I'm in agreement of we just take it as it comes for distance learning, and hopefully distance learning doesn't have to be for years and years and years. And having a set policy on it just makes it a little bit, it makes it more difficult to adapt and change. And so that's the purpose, is to just have it be through administration, and we do it the way that the state recommends, and kind of change as change and tell us what to do.
And Lloyd, on special ed, you read that
Yeah.
section.
Yeah, I concur. Having worked through the last few months when things were changing, regardless of whether the change on the part of the Bureau was because of a legislative issue or a judge's issue or whatever it is, having the flexibility of doing what's right at the time based on the recommendations or the requirements of the Bureau of Special Education, I think is necessary and sufficient. I don't believe we need a board policy that's this finely crafted. So I support the notion of it being administrative guidelines. We follow the rules, and as the rules change, we adapt. Keeps my secretary very busy at times.
Okay. So we don't need a motion for that. We'll just
It's just
acknowledge that we reviewed it, right, for the minutes.
yes.
Okay. So moving on to new business, snow removal.
Nope, we have not received bids at this point. We did advertise, and we're still looking for somebody to take care of our snow removal.
Okay. That's date for snow removal. Number 2 is committee preferences of the Board of Education members.
Yes, we gave the board members a list of the board members. Please check to make sure all the data on that is correct, and contact Dee Dee if there's any corrections. And then you'll find a 2-page summary of committees as they stand now, but we haven't added Valerie's name in on some of the committees, and Valerie is a new board member. You can look through this, but if there are some suggestions you have for serving on committees, please just write me a note, and we will update the list. And there's standing committees and other things that the board has approved, such as the Curriculum Steering Committee. Kate is on that, so we have an opening. Kathy served on indoor air quality for years. Health and benefits, Kate and Megan are on that. Negotiations, Kathy, you said you can no longer be there. So Christopher, there's an opening on negotiations, and we're meeting next Tuesday at 5. So if you want to join in on that, you could.
All righty, I will then.
Okay, so we'll add Christopher's name to that. And then policy committee has been Kate and Erica, but Megan's been doing so much work on that. What would be the best way what direction would we want to go? Megan?
I was going to say, you can move me to school security and safety committee if you need somebody to do that with, that needs
Okay.
times per year.
Yeah, Megan, would you take policy?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. It's yeoman's work.
Kate has faithfully attended all. And then the school security, Erica, okay. And then solar panel review committee, Kathy was in the original solar panel. There's some things that we want to do with that, but it's been difficult. Some things have just come to a grinding halt with setting up committee members with resources and stuff. But we are reviewing some procedures with that. Technology meets about 3 times a year. That's Kate and Kathy Grant. Transportation has been Kathy and Megan. And then wellness and food services is Kate and Kathy. I think Kathy's been on that committee for, I don't know, 14 years.
Yeah.
And then Youth Service Bureau was Christopher Wilson. So those are the committees on this list, and we'll make assignments. And I'll see if I could blend those into the other types of things. But Valerie, if you look through the list of committees, if there's something that you are interested in, please feel free to either give me a call or write, and we'll see if we can edit this before the next board meeting, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So moving right along, our Board of Ed meeting schedule for 2021.
Yes, this has to be approved by motion by the Board of Ed. It's been the second Thursday of each month with the special meeting. If a special meeting is needed, it's on the 4th Thursday. So just a motion to approve this.
Motion.
Second.
On favor? Aye. Any opposed? I don't know. We had an opposing a couple years back, didn't we, Scott? Like it was on Valentine's Day or something, and we all were up in arms about.
Yeah, because no one could be there because of their significant others.
Take a look at the dates.
Yeah, the 11th.
I remember that.
I do not
Very well
want
remember that,
those
Val.
BOE meetings.
Yeah, oh, that was fun, you remember?
Yes. But I didn't see anything, at least from first glance, that looked, alarmist from dates. So. Okay. All in favor, motion carries. It's good as of now.
Okay.
So
Somebody moved and motioned that, yes?
we did, yep.
Okay.
All in favor, aye. Motion carries. We did.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to the school calendar, which is the first draft, obviously. That's.
Yes, and I sent the one draft with the April vacation being the week of April 18th. And then in the packet that we sent to your homes, there was another calendar that said the week of April 11th. And right now, EastCon had 1 week and Learn had the other week. And so this is just a first draft to give you an idea of what's happening. There'll be a second draft at the next meeting. Learn has not made their decision about what the calendar would be. And the problem with April is that the state is determining when there are SAT dates. And so they haven't made the decision yet as far as which week in April. It seems like the state might want to use the week of April 11th for the SAT, so we're still waiting. So as I said, this is a first draft, and I gave you a copy of the EastCon calendar in the packet. The Learn calendar is still in discussion.
Any concerns to discuss about that yet, or is it too early?
I think it might be too early. This is just a background information. Sometimes the board has made the decision in February or even March, but it's good to, keep the information flowing so that by the time we get to a decision, we've reviewed all the options. The big thing that we want for one April vacation is with transportation. If we have 2 different vacations, then we're running the buses for an additional week. And it's a cost-saving factor if both regions have a consistent calendar.
Okay. Stay updated on that. Okay, item number 5 is an update on calendars, to get it on people's calendars for a special board meeting on January 28th of this upcoming year for a
Yes.
special meeting. Yeah, with Gabe.
We've been trying to schedule Nick Caruso to do a workshop. They've been quite successful in the past. And I did call Nick and asked if he'd been doing virtual meetings, and he said, yes, he has. So this would require a board motion to have a special meeting.
There's a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think that'll be a really good meeting. We've been trying to have it. We obviously had, poor Nick had a loss in his family, so we couldn't have him. And that was a loss to us because obviously he's such a value of information for us as board members. So I look forward to that. Item number 6 is a job description update.
Yes, the Voluntown School District does not have a designated business manager or an extra person as a business manager like all other systems in Eastern Connecticut. The part-time Voluntown Superintendent of Schools for the past 3 decades has been legally fulfilling these duties in the absence of a business manager. So for the past 15 years, if they put business, who's the business manager of the school district, we put my name down. After decades of effectively completing the overall responsibilities of a central office, there's been an increased workload that's been placed on the executive assistant to the superintendent of schools. This position now has exceeded the activities. It's not a secretarial position. This is especially evident in the increased emphasis of processing HR or human resources responsibility. Therefore, the attached draft of the job description includes additional highlighted HR responsibilities. This position requires extensive support and involvement in the hiring of all new personnel, maintaining appropriate files, verification of fingerprinting, and coordinating the security check process. So this is a first reading of the job description, and it has increased. And I'd like to also review this in executive session.
Okay. We will take that up in executive session.
Yes.
The first reading. All right, item number 7. We're getting close, guys and girls. It's job description update. Substitute teachers pay.
We have trouble finding substitutes, and our substitute pay has been $83 a day for the last probably 10 years. There's school districts now that are paying, Grizzle's paying $95 for subs. Preston is paying $90. Brooklyn is paying $85. And there's some higher substitute pays in the area. And I would like to recommend that we increase the substitute pay. It needs a significant boost up. And quite frankly, if we have a certified person who wants to be a substitute, actually, I was thinking in the vicinity of $100 a day. And if there's a person that has a college degree and qualifies for a sub, the sub pay would be $95 a day. So that would be my recommendation. Certainly, if the board has problems with that, we can research this some more, but it has not been raised. And quite frankly, we need to be competitive with some of the other school districts.
I would
Is it
think
in our-
90.
Is it in our budget already? The raise? Would we be
Yes,
able to afford it?
because
It's already in the budget.
we do an average.
Out.
I do believe there's money in the budget from now until the end of the year to absorb that. And yes, I would approach this as implement immediately if approved.
I think 90 would be competitive. 100 would be exorbitant. We're already one of the most expensive cost per student school systems in the entire United States of America. And things like this is why. I mean, we're getting clobbered here.
Well, Adam, can you get together a paper that shows all the average amounts in all the other towns?
Sure, I could check that out, yes.
And we could look at that at the next meeting?
Yes.
Because I've heard that it's very hard to get a sub anywhere.
And really, yeah, that's all I've heard is it's just at our kids' expense that we can't get proper coverage for a teacher. I mean, I think
And they'll have to close down. If we can't get a sub, we have to close. That's what's happening in, where is it, Ansonia, I believe, because they can't get enough subs. They're shutting the school and going remote.
Well, you have distance learning to cover that.
We've then table it for the next meeting.
Yeah, and.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with salary. That has to do with the pandemic situation.
Well, yeah, but even before that, we always had trouble getting subs.
This is the first time I've heard about this since I've been here. Not on the board in this town.
But it's been a problem for maybe 20 years.
I guess you should have taken care of it 20 years ago.
We struggle with that too at NFA for sure.
Yeah.
We had to increase it as well, but I'm not quite sure the numbers at all. So I think someone said to gather more numbers. I think that's a smart idea.
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah, right now, we're one of the highest cost per student districts in the state. And I keep saying the state's one of the highest, third highest now, I think, in the country. And we can't afford to be the most expensive school district in the entire United States of America anymore. It's utterly ridiculous. And all these nickels and dimes, well, we have to pay more than anybody else. I mean, for what? We still won't get any more subs because there's a pandemic.
Why don't we look at the facts and figures and then everybody can make a decision?
agreed. So that was the last new business item. I think the next meeting is December 10th. So hopefully you have it all on your calendars for December 10th.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments or questions before we have a motion to move into executive session? No? Okay. Do we have a motion to move into executive session? Thank you for, first of all, thank you for Lloyd and Dee Dee and everyone, and Amy, thank you for your, your time that you give to us and you give to the school and the students every day. But
Thank you for coming out. And
I'm sorry I just rushed through this this end, but and thank you all for the nomination.